everyone.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing all right.
Welcome to our live Q&A. Very festive one. You guys don't have any festive
I'm
things
very
on.
festive.
I got a green
I got my
pen. That's as
Atari
far as I
shirt.
go.
man.
All right. You have smiles. All right, so I am not Queen. I'm going to be the host today. And we have two awesome guests with us. So, Ethan, what do you do on the game?
I'm a life balance designer.
Awesome.
And I am
Horvat.
Ethan's counterpart as a live balance designer as well.
Yeah,
So
that's what we do.
live balance, a lot of game balance. There's a lot of game questions. That's awesome. That's why you're here.
Absolutely.
But first, before we go with the Q&A, we're going to go with actual informations. Oops, there we go. Now it's starting. The fog gods. You got called the fog gods. That's kind of cool.
That sounds like an epic name.
Yeah, I think it should be in your new behavior name. No more Ethan, just the fog god. Anyways, on that very serious start right here, we have actual very serious stuff to talk about. Right now there is a disconnect penalty test going on the live game on PC and Switch. And there's a lot of feedback, like a lot of it.
A lot of feedback.
A lot of feedback. This is a test that is limited to, it's going to stop tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. And we actually gathering a lot of data on this. So this is good for the future. But we have also gathered a lot of player feedback for people saying that, some people saying that the punishments are not harsh enough. Mm-hmm. Some people saying that they are not harsh enough because, or actually, they're not harsh enough, but they would be okay because there's crashes, infinite loadings that we're looking into that are actually causing people to get the penalties. So those are the problems we're looking into. We also have some bugs that we're trying to isolate that might cause problems for this too. And then finally we got some feedback about the UI or the information going to the players. Say some people don't see their first bans or their first disconnection penalty. Let's use the right word, right?
Great.
Because they restart their game. By the time they're coming back, they didn't even see they had one. So when they get their second one, it's longer. So they didn't even see the first one. So that's the feedback we got.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your feedback, by the way.
Yeah.
Super appreciated.
There was a lot of it. There's some stuff that we're trying to isolate if it works as intended or not. So we're working on all of this right now, but the test is turned off tomorrow, 11 a.m. Matchmaking. Okay. Yeah, this one is, we know, guys. We know matchmaking is difficult right now. We are looking into trying to change some backend data or some backend, it's not data, it's more values. Yes, exactly, values to try to ease matchmaking for over Christmas. And then when we come back, look into some different problematic with matchmaking and
possible solutions.
Possible solutions. Thank you very much. So we're aware that it is very bad, and some people are saying it's very bad for survivors. Some others are like it's very bad for killers. You're all right, actually. It depends on a lot of things. So yes, queue times are long for a lot of people right now. So thank you for bearing with us.
Absolutely.
Then we have some announcements. Actually, cool announcements. Blood Hunt.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
Blood Hunt over. We're starting the year big. 2020, January 2nd, boom, Blood Hunt. Right when we start.
That's two times for the 220, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Haha.
See what you did there.
And it's also going to be at the end of the first tome of the archive. Someone asked for Carl
Respect to
another
Carl.
time. So yeah, it's gonna coincide with the end of the first tome. So it's gonna give you a little boost to finish up as well. Obviously, it's not boosting anything in the Rift or in the archive per se, but it's motivating to get even more points to play.
Absolutely.
Another message message of public interest. Our studio is going to be closed between Christmas and the 1st of January, which means that there will be very, very, very limited support. So community managers, customer support, that's going to be on the low staff, let's say it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And for the next 2 weeks, it's going to be a bit slow as well because a lot of people are taking vacation over holidays.
Absolutely.
So we're humans too, guys. We have families to go see. After that, we have prepared a dev update, an end of the year post to go over, what we achieved this year, what's coming up, to do some points on what about dedicated servers and everything that's around that specifically for console, but also on the changes that would improve dedicated servers on the current platforms. So we're preparing this post. It's going to be posted on December 31st because it's the end of the year post. A lot of people are asking for a winter event. Just to make sure that it's clear, there will not be a winter event per se like you guys are used to. We have announced it previously in the dev update that we're going to try to do events a little bit more tied to the archives. So like we did for Halloween, that was our first one. We tried it that way. We're going to improve it and change a little bit of things for the future. But for this winter event, we preferred concentrating on, well, actually, we gave you a lot of gifts at the beginning of the month, and you have a double blood point. So sadly, there's just not going to be like a festive ambience in the game. So that's the difference.
Just some sweaters.
This year, sweaters, yes.
Oh my God.
That Bill one. Oh.
So good.
And finally, before we go to the Q&A, there is a lot of sales on the game right now. So if you have friends that want to try, it's the time. If you have a DLC you wanna get, literally on Steam, Xbox, PS4, and PS4 Japan and Asia as well. Starting this week up until like early January, a lot of things are on sale. So go check it out.
Super cool.
All right, now we're getting into
Question time.
question time. So this Q&A, the questions were selected from a post in the forums. So questions we found there. And there's a lot of them about the spirit, the Oni, because I'm reading the first one already. So Oni, questions about how do we do with new perks, new killers, the creation process. And then we have special questions at the end about a guy named the Doctor, I think. But we'll talk about that a little later. All right, so let's start with Super Pablog.
Oh, perfect.
I have no idea if I massacred your name right now. What is the relation between Rin and Kazan Yamaoka, Spirit and Oni? That's why I said Spirit before.
It's a good question.
Good question?
Yeah, I'm going to answer this one. I'm going to take this one. So
You can have it,
Kazan
man.
is Rin's great, that's 5, it's a full hand, grandfather. He's attracted to the entity through his dark actions and forever cursed has he towards the Yamaoka bloodline.
So he's the reason why Rin got cursed?
Seems like it. He seemed to have screwed his family over for a little while there.
So how many greats?
That's a great, but that's 5. That's 5.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kajor, why did you decide to give Oni his own chase music? Will other killers get their own chase music?
Yes, they are. We did the Demogorgon, gave him some custom music.
Which got great feedback.
Great feedback. Everybody was so happy about that. So we went ahead and did it with Oni. Again, more great feedback. And so we will be seeing, slowly over time, we'll be updating the chase music for different killers so that they're all unique.
Yes, and we know it's something that the community wants, and it will most likely, no promises here, come with killer updates and reworks. For example, who's our next in line?
The Doctor.
Yeah, and will he get his own chase music?
He will, yes.
You heard it here first. Awesome.
It's pretty intense.
It's pretty intense.
It's pretty intense.
Intense is the word. All right. Can we get the Oni's power to work on consoles the same way it does on PC? Okay, so we had a lot of talk around this. Sorry, I didn't say the name. François. I forgot.
Do you want to try? You want to try now?
I think we're good. He's giving me the thumbs up.
Awesome.
All right. So basically, we had like a lot of talk around the Oni flick. I'm going to call it the Oni flick. There was changes, hot fixes, and the response was very, very mixed. Let's say it that way.
Yeah.
So, what happened with this?
Well, we tweaked the rotation limitation on the newer hotfix patch, and both PC and controller should have the same limitation, which is what it is on PC right now. So tweaking the sensitivity or remapping the keys should no longer have an impact on that.
Yeah.
The flick was not an intended behavior in the design in the first place.
Yes.
So the fact that it was inconsistent was because it was wrong on in one place and not necessarily in the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've now normalized it across the platforms.
So we did hear a lot of feedback about the speed of that 45 angle at the end, and the speed I think was something that our design team wanted to review. That's what we discussed.
So after the recent hotfix, we are still looking into it. I'm not sure exactly what's going to come out of it, but we do understand that there was frustration with the actual speed at which you're turning.
This is
to get to the
something that is
45
being
degrees.
handled by Janik, who is one of the killer designers. So this hasn't dropped into our laps yet as the live designers. He's still doing some tail end support for the release of the new killer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very well said.
All right. Boomhauer.
Boomhauer.
Boomhauer X.
Okay. I normally don't say the X.
Oh, okay.
Oni shouldn't be able to absorb blood orbs when a survivor is on a hook. Will this be changed? And I think that in the question, we made it a little bit more simple for the stream, but in the question, it was compared to Myers, for example. Like Meyer cannot stalk while someone's on a hook. So
Right.
how does that work?
So the thing is that Myers and Oni build their powers quite differently. You only get 2 blood orbs if you hook a survivor, and survivors cannot produce blood orbs while they're on the hook over time. Myers can also stalk a fully healthy survivor from afar, while the Oni needs to hit a survivor first. We feel that the two are balanced and that each one has its pros and cons. So they work differently. Yes, they're both sort of a charge-up mechanic, but when in the gameplay you're able to do the charge-up is completely different between the two.
Yeah, one's on demand, pretty much is requiring the survivor to be in sight. The other one actually requires player agency and input. Of course, we could have done it in other ways. I mean, like, there's been plenty of suggestions, whatever the case may be. But right now, this one seems to fit and feel the best for us at the moment.
Yep.
But you should definitely expect that some killers will work differently. You know, that's what makes them more unique in some aspects. So it's learning how to play against them and their strengths.
Awesome, thank you. Nuclear burrito. I gotta say, I really
That's
love the
really
name
good.
every time. Why does the Oni lose a portion of his power duration when downing a survivor?
Well, to limit the slugging aspect of the initial version and have players a decision about what to do next after downing a survivor, having more impact on the gameplay. It's also a value that can be used later on to tweak or rebalance the killer in his future revisions. So it's kind of like we give killers these powers and we give them meters that allow them to use them. And when you get a hit, we make the assumption that the power has helped you do that. And then if you are able to continue using it after that, it ends up being more powerful. And so like we do this with Legion, if you hit somebody, it knocks a portion of your bar off, because if you just hit them, you don't necessarily need to go running after them again. So it's something that we often do.
Thank you. Dip. Are there any perks that change the frequency of blood orb spawning? I think that was your...
Yeah, this is also a two-part question because we have a similar response to both, so we're going to group them together. Sorry, Francois. So also from that brown monster, what was the most challenging part of the Oni to create, which goes with this question as well from Dip. We're basically trying to make perks be less impactful on a specific killer. So I guess a good example would be...
Slippery meat.
Slippery meat.
Because it only affects the trapper.
Yeah, well, and getting off the hook.
Yeah, but that
But it
affects
specifically
everybody
traps
equally.
the trapper, yeah. So we're trying to get away from those types of things. so killer power can quickly get out of hands and become impossible to balance when affected by perks. We deliberately made it so that no perk would affect the blood orb spawn rate, that only add-ons will. This is particular towards like no mither. This is a question that went around inside. It's like, will we allow players to completely starve the killer out of their power? And the response was, or the conclusion was no. So it looks like we're going to try to avoid those things in the future. I'm not sure exactly what are going to happen with the existing perks, but this might happen.
Sorry, this chat. Nerf slippery meat. I don't think that's ever something I've ever heard before.
I've never heard that before.
Okay. So are you guys getting on that?
Nerfing
Next update.
Slippery meat will only.
We're making jokes.
Kill you faster.
Don't go everywhere and say these things. Slippery meat OP. Okay, on that. Medic Spirit 7. Where did the inspiration for Yui come from? Haha. Whoever.
You can take this one.
I will take this one. So the inspiration came from motorcycle gangs. I wanted to create a character that defied norms and blazed her own path. She's a lot more independent, right? Yui's premise was that she doesn't wait for help, she finds a way. She always finds a way. This is her motto, and it was reflected in all her story beats as she goes from scooter race to world's class Grand Prix racer. Which is pretty damn cool.
She's pretty damn cool, kind of like sums it.
And she's got a neon bike. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, and very flashy clothes.
Pants.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pants. Yeah.
I love those yellow pants.
Those playtests were like all yellow pants. Anyways, oh, another great username, Shrek is Hot, is asking, how do you feel about Oni's beginning game potential? I'm assuming it's early game potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Okay, so this is an answer that's from looks like it's from Janik.
Yeah.
Yeah, the killer designer. So he said, we were not super confident about his M1 killer instance when no survivors were injured, and felt that compared to the other killer designs, he was missing a tool or something to orient survivors. In the original concept, the Kanabo weapon was available at all times, and you could snap between the katana and the Kanabo, but you were only given the extra lunge, not double damage. And this turned out to be too confusing for players. So we tried multiple Kanabo attacks in a row, sort of a combo effect, but it was super ineffective against survivors. Because of the nature of the first-person camera, it was easy to lose track of the survivor really quickly. We also tried to make the absorb effect work on any survivor, no matter what was his health status, but it was too similar to the stalking mechanic and was hard to understand what was happening on the survivor side. So yeah, it's a complicated thing, and we went through a bunch of iterations to see what would work best, and the current one that we have, we think, sort of addresses the problems.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have a couple of questions that are outside of the new content. So we're gonna start back. Cash LP 14. Are all killer perks created to work with the killer ability?
So not necessarily. Perks go through an intensive process before we choose them. We try to make sure that they don't clash with a killer power, and it's good if there is some synergy with the killer, but it's not necessary. It is more important for a new perk to have some synergy with other released perks on previously released killers.
Immersed Nurse is asking, what is the process of designing and implementing perks?
You want to go over that one?
Sure. I'm just kind of questioning what an immersed nurse
Yeah.
would mean
Yeah,
at that point. Does she like stop breathing when she blinks, like during her fatigue?
I have no idea.
Anyways.
I think we should ask the person.
Question for you. So determining 10 out of 15, the first step is determining 10 to 15 potential new perks per character. So that's 15 and 15 for killer and for survivor. And then we clean out, detail, review each potential perk out of the 15. Quick chat with designers individually will help at least have a good idea of where we're going and make sure that we're not going too far off the point. And then we review perks based on overall feedback. We send out the survey to the whole team. This is step 6. Sorry, I haven't actually been naming the steps, but I've been kind of breaking them down. 7 is, 8 rather, is eliminate perks list to 4 to 5 perks. Sorry, my numbers are completely off. Today's a good day. 9, a round table with designers to review and rate each perk for both characters. And 10 is determine the last final 3 perks for each character. So it's basically a process of starting with a bunch of perks with an idea that we want to choose a few from this pack, and then we refine it as we call some that are maybe need to go back to the drawing board, or some that just don't fit with this character, whatever the case may be. And then we refine down to the last group, and we think and we pass back and forth ideas on how these could be interesting, maybe manipulate them a little bit to get them even cooler.
Yep.
Ultimately, finalizing with 3 perks for both sides.
And then there's always that occasional perk that comes up on the screen, and everybody goes, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's okay. We need to nerf that, you know." And then that goes in the list, and we look at it again later.
Definitely.
Those are
Don't-
kind of funny
Don't
to
say
imagine.
nerf before lunch. Now it's gonna go and it's gonna start.
That's true.
Nothing is. It is only change.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
true.
only changed
Yeah.
before it's live.
One must embrace this.
Yeah. All right. So this one didn't have an answer on our thing, but I think it's a question that you guys can easily answer. Profound ending. God, these names. How long does it take to create a character and release it? So you guys are live designers, but obviously you see all the process of creating a killer. We've discussed with the lead designer earlier that was saying it's about a 5-month process.
About, yeah.
But it also depends on a lot of things. For example, the power, our testing feedback, our testing loop. Is the power working as intended? Is it reaching our objectives?
Yeah.
Our
Right?
process is actually longer than it used to be as well.
Yes.
Yeah. It's changed.
We have a better understanding of how we create these killers.
I remember when I joined the team, and then it was summer, and Huntress was created. Huntress was a lot. There was a lot of round of feedback and everything, and then we had like Leatherface, Freddy, let's go.
Yeah, that was intense.
That was really intense.
Wow.
Yeah.
Leatherface came together fast.
Very
Yes.
fast.
Yeah.
So now it's a much more
Deliberate.
deliberate process. That's a great word. Thank you. Deliberate process, where we actually prototype it, and we have a prototyping phase. Then we go back and forth, feedback, and then we agree on something that we like. We go forward with that, and then we start iterating and implementing it in the proper way until it finally is what it is today. And then it goes to PTB. Of
And
course.
sometimes they come together faster than others, like the current unannounced one that we're working on. Sort of fell into place quite quickly. So, you know, it's cool.
I was like, careful.
Yeah,
We're gonna
I
turn
will
off your
be
mic
very
right
careful
now.
or I'm going to get shot here. So, yeah.
We don't use guns.
Oh,
Okay.
that's right.
I'm kidding.
That's that cleaver back there.
Yeah.
So more general questions, actually. 4-2, can you please put the ranks back for survivors? What's our plan on that?
Our plan is not to put them back because they showed up in the first place because of a bug.
Yeah.
They were not supposed to be there. And the reason we want to keep it this way is because one of the things that you could use it for is you show up in your match, you're a rank 5 survivor, and you get matched up with, let's say, 2 rank 10s and a rank 12. You just think, I don't want to play this match, and you disconnect. Well, that costs them more time, that costs the killer more time. We just don't want people dodging lobbies because of the
It will
the
cause the
perceived
matchmaking.
So-
worry about what might happen in a match because of the ranks of the other survivors.
So what if players think it was a feature and it wasn't a bug? So how do we address this? So the reason why we're not doing it is understandable. It has an impact on matchmaking, and our matchmaking already is a little bit difficult at the moment. But when do we? Because it happened in the past where a bug became a feature, and then we make jokes about it, and then it becomes an actual feature of the game.
Yeah.
So this one specifically has too much of an impact on our matchmaking for it to leave it there. That's the reason, right?
Yeah, we want to be reasonable a little bit towards why we're going to keep something in or why we're going to take it out, right? And in this case, we know that it has a definite impact on our matchmaking times and wait times, and this is something that we want to improve. So this would only be hurting the situation at the moment, unfortunately.
Oh, we're not fixing this because the matchmaking is broke. It's because it impacts even more.
Even more.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
Even
just
more.
saying that because I can read the chat
I
at
think
the
I-
moment. I'm like, come on, guys.
that's great.
All right. Venom 368. Are there any more changes in the works to bring solo queue survivors closer to the level of survivor friend group?
I am guessing that this question was precipitated by the change to Kindred that we put through last time. And behind that Kindred change was this desire to make solo playing a little bit closer to SWF and give some more information to the solo players. That's why we did that. But to answer this question specifically, are there any more changes in the works? Whenever we do, this is my scripted answer that I wrote earlier. whenever we do balance changes, one of the questions we ask ourselves is, how does this affect the SWF solo issue? Things that make the gap worse are less likely to get done. So like if we come up with a perk and then we ask ourselves this question and it turns out that this perk is going to make it even worse for the divide, then we're less likely to do that. And if we ask ourselves this question and it turns out that it helps this gap, then we're more likely to do it. It's not a focus that we're 100% concentrated on, but it underlies a lot of our work because we know this disparity exists and we want to make it less important wherever we can.
All right. And then it goes to the next question, Cake Duty. Why not add Kindred to the base kit then?
Yes, this is a suggestion that's run around not only the community but the design team. So there are a few people around who would like to do this, and there are a few people who are concerned about it. So let's explain why we don't. There are a lot of effects around the game in general that people would like to have as base kit. For example, I saw a post on the forum that said just make Ruin based kit since everybody runs it anyway. And I'm like,
Well, first, not everybody runs it.
I don't think so.
There's a lot of people that run it.
There are.
It is very meta right now, but
no, shouldn't make a base kit. Anyway, so we hesitate to add something like Kindred as base kit because of the massive amount of information that it gives. The things that we want to incorporate into base kit would be things that don't have as huge an impact as something like Kindred does.
So
we already have Bond, which gives sort of the same idea as Kindred, but Kindred's additional effect of showing the killer if he's near is sort of an anti-camping device, and that's an awful lot of information to give people on the killer baseline. Is that so? This is something that Kindred's not going to become baseline.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. I don't know how to say your name. Masuster?
Masuster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why did you change how rank reset works? Because the last rank reset was different. That's for sure.
That was Friday the 13th. Yeah, so why did we change how the rank reset works? So ultimately before the rank reset, what it would do is if you're a rank 1, you get reset to rank 10. And everybody else would get reset to, well, higher than rank 10, of course, because rank 1 was the highest you could be. What this ended up doing is based on the fact that our game will slowly open up the search to increase and incorporate other ranks when you're searching. So instead of being a rank 10 looking for only rank 10s, I might look for a rank 11, rank 12 if I'm waiting longer, of course, right? To make matchmaking a little quicker. And to find people, of course, which is the point of making it quicker. What we've done is we've changed it so that you go from whatever color you're in. So if you're in red, you're going to go to purple. If you're purple, you're going to go to green. And if you're green, you're going to go to yellow, and yellow to brown. Right? I think that's
Yeah, that's it.
That makes sense. Ultimately, what this will do is after a rank reset, instead of everyone being bunched all together in the same area, which means that new players might play against experienced players, players that are just not necessarily comfortable playing against experienced players are thrown right into the deep end. Now we're going to have a hopefully equal balance where ranks 1 to 4 will be playing at 5, and at the beginning they're pretty much going to be playing with rank 1s to like rank 8s, something of that nature, where you should have more contained matches of equal skill. Obviously, right off the bat, after the 13th, we're not going to see those changes. It should take about a month before players fall into place, but we should start seeing players reaching their skill cap. That's the idea, you know. So eventually, you're going to get to rank 8 or something like that, and you're going to be like, okay, I've met players that are too good. I can't go any further. All right, I'm going to keep trying to refine my skills. I'm going to learn more about the game if I want to go any further, right? But at least you're going to have, and this is the hope, more fairer matches against people of your skill.
So, while I understand the whole concept behind it, there's a lot of feedback that comes in that says, okay, well, you know, I went to rank 1 with, let's say, Trapper.
Yeah.
And I wanna try this new killer that I've never tried before. But then if I am reset only to rank 5, I'm gonna have a hard time to learn a new killer and then stay up there.
Yeah.
So,
and this is a reality of our rank system at the moment in having one mode. We can't go into the details of what we will be doing, but this is something that we're completely aware about, and we'd like to try to address as well. No timelines, of course, but in the meantime, this fix We didn't want to wait for the full package to do something for the players. Rank reset has always been a point of contention, whether people are liking the fact that they play against new players or players that are not playing at all because a rank reset is too difficult. I believe this change is still worthwhile for the game. But we will be monitoring this, and we might revert it if ever it is, if it shows up that it's not actually a good thing for our game.
Yep.
All right. Some people are also asking in the chat, why are some games showing up as, high rank survivors and then they get like a low rank killer, and there's a lot of question about this.
We have bugs that are
Yeah.
related to that. Could it be explicit towards what bugs they are?
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess.
You guess?
Yeah.
All right. There are some instances where a lobby will no longer, I'm going to try to be vague about this, I'm sorry. There are some situations where a lobby will get the incorrect rank for the killer. We're looking into this. But that ends up happening, and it ends up having a result on the killer you're going to have. So the
Yeah.
killer might be rank 20, playing against rank 1s, and there's a bug in our system that just didn't match it up correctly.
Yeah.
We are looking into this. We're not going to have a fix in before
Yeah.
Christmas. But sometimes next year, or whenever, we're going to be able to get that done, and it should be better. But that's an issue with our system at the moment,
Yeah.
and not an actual desired design.
There's also the fact that sometimes when you're matched with with a friend, let's say I'm rank 1, you're rank 20. No, nothing against you. And we're ending up playing with my rank.
Yeah.
Which means that the killer sees that he's playing against someone that's really low rank, and he's like, "What's happening with the matchmaking?" But that's that's how our survivor friend is working at the moment
Yeah.
as well.
We're also
so
looking
it
into
does
this.
look like it.
Yeah, we're also looking into that specifically as well. I don't know if there's going to be any changes, but that might be something that we change.
All right, he's not rank 20, guys. We're good.
Maybe on one of my accounts.
He's 19.
I am on my dev account, that's for sure. Okay.
19.
Okay, here we go. Wuta. Why did you nerf balanced landing?
All right, so Balanced Landing has gone through quite a bunch of history. When it first came out, I believe that we even had the stagger on cooldown. We removed it because we didn't feel like the players had the appeal for the perk. It didn't feel like it felt as strong as other exhaustion perks, particularly because there wasn't as much height in our game, as much verticality. Now, we have more verticality in Dead by Daylight. Balanced Landing has become a lot more used. This is also identified specifically towards the stagger reduction that is always on, has identified that there's some players who are able to use drops to their advantage to be able to stay away from the killer for a indefinite amount of time, right? Which is quite awesome, right? But not very awesome for our game, not very good for the health of the game. So the actual stagger reduction being on at all times was proving to be more problematic than good for our game. It also pushed this exhaustion perk into another category in some aspects, right? So we decided to put the actual exhaustion, we wanted to apply all the aspects of Balanced Landing to the exhaustion cooldown. This allows us to make other perks if ever we wanted to, with the same kind of deals. We can also have a strong, powerful punch when Balanced Landing activates, which is now, in addition, muffling your sounds when you're falling, which should be an extra additional thing. Hopefully, this has kept the appeal of the perk itself. Understandably, there will be some anger or people upset because they've lost the permanent stagger reduction, but I think this is better for the game. And it's not just for maps, it's ultimately because this was also problematic for the perk side.
All right, Rainbow Patootie is asking, why make the change to Deep Wound? I think that's a question for you.
It's a question for me. This is one of the things I've been working on is Legion and Deep Wounds. Okay, so here's my answer. Deep Wounds has been giving us problems for quite some time. When we hit upon a solution that's not abusable by either killers or survivors, we decided to implement it as quickly as possible. And that happened after the PTB, where the Legion got his speed back, and before the release of the Oni. And that was like a 2-week window, and we were wondering what we were going to do. This problem came up with the Nemesis perk, which brought back the ability to follow survivors that had Deep Wound on them. And we just, Jeff, one of our QA /
Awesome,
designers,
Jeff.
yeah, He
Jeff.
mentioned the solution where suppose deep wound just doesn't go down if you're running. And we all looked at each other and thought, I can't think of a way to abuse this. Can you think of a way? And Matt's like, no, I can't think of a way to abuse it.
We were like, the only thing you can do as a survivor is run indefinitely and never get caught. And it's like, but then you're not doing anything else.
So we
All right,
thought,
that sounds okay.
Well, you run towards a save or something. You can do that.
yeah.
Sure, but I mean,
So-
like, you're not doing gens, you're not doing...
Yeah, so you're not
progressing the
you're not
game.
abusing the system. So we thought
Darn it, Jeff.
let's ship it. And so we shipped it, and so far I've been quite happy with the results that we've gotten, the way it feels. We've had some negative feedback on it, but overall the feedback is positive because we don't hear of people abusing deep wounds anymore. It's in a much healthier place. Since deep wound is an integral part of the Legion's power, we needed something more sensible, and that's this new version. Another problem we had with when the deep wound was going down, or not going down in the terror radius, it interacted badly with a bunch of perks and other killers. So while it was an improvement over the version that we had when the Legion first shipped, this third version that we have seems to have fixed all of the abuse problems. And now that I have all that in a stable position, I can continue monitoring Legion and see what else we can do to bring him into a better place. Because we know that he's still not even mid-tier, but he hasn't gone down significantly either. He's pretty much stayed at an even power level since the release. So none of the changes that we've done have shown statistical changes in his ability to get kills. We know that may need to come up, but now that we have deep wound stabilized, we feel like we can attack that problem.
Well, that's kind of like, I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
Just so you know, François, it's not the next one. It's like the last one. It's Vigo here is asking, what was the motivation behind the Legion nerf? So that's a big word.
This one,
It's the last one.
so
Yeah.
the Legion nerf. It was not intended to be a nerf. We never looked at it as the Legion nerf. What we did was a consistency pass on all killers and their basic attacks. We decided that we wanted to normalize what is a basic attack, normalize all the perks that triggered off of them, and then make sure that it was very clear from the perk descriptions whether a hatchet would work or whether just your normal attack would work. And that meant that we had to adjust that on Legion, and since the Feral Frenzy attack is a power attack, it can't be a basic attack, so we normalized that, and that we recognized was going to reduce synergy between Legion and certain perks. So the idea was not
So
to
you
nerf.
knew going in that this consistency pass was going to
Negatively impact the
okay.
Legion, but the intention was never to nerf Legion. And as I said earlier, with the Deep Wound in a better place, we can now look at how Legion is performing, particularly with regard to the basic attack change, and then make further changes as necessary. So we are definitely keeping our eye on Legion.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, so I'm going to pass this one because it's a doctor question, and we're going to do that at the end. Oh yes, the Suicide Fox. Would you guys consider re-examining Spirit post-phase speed curve? So I think we had a discussion over this earlier, and it is currently bugged, right? The speed curve
Yeah.
at the end of the hit.
Yeah. So I think currently right now she's not actually getting a speed burst or an additional lunge speed.
Yes, the lunge speed.
During her post-phase speed curve. I'm not sure if are they asking for the curve to be adjusted specifically?
Well, I'm assuming that the question comes from the fact that since it's bugged right now, it feels like a little restrictive.
Well, we're definitely looking to fix the bug because the Wraith and Spirit should both have that ability to lunge out of their ability, which gives them an extra distance. This is something that our players found early on, and we're like, oh, this is super cool. Let's keep this tech. Let's make sure it's actually written down and it follows through correctly and it handles its cases correctly. Unfortunately, we do have a bug with it at the moment. Other than that, if you're asking about the curve itself, like does it feel weird or anything? Does it hiccup? We can definitely look into it to see if to make sure that it's smooth. So if you come out of your Spirit Walk phase at a high enough speed, we'll keep the same speed and then we'll bring it down. There are cases where the Spirit Walk speed is very high and then you would come up at a slower speed and then it feels a bit weird. I'm not saying it is the case with the Spirit, but if it is, we'll take a look into it as well.
All right. Yoshi39, do Kindred and open-ended still interact like they did before?
At the moment, they do. We are going to reevaluate this in conjunction with the update to Kindred. This was a feature that went in a while back, and we're currently reevaluating if the reasons we put it in are still valid or not.
Just to be sure, what is in there?
If you run multiple instances of open-handed, the range of Kindred reading the killer's aura if he is camping caps at 24 meters, even though it should go up to 48, given
Right.
the numbers on open-handed.
Right, so open-handed increases it by +6,
No,
+8,
plus 8.
I think.
+8 each
There's
one?
a total of plus 32 if,
By heart or from memory, I think it's 8, but
Yeah.
I might be
I'm
wrong.
pretty sure.
No, I
it's
think
eight.
you're right.
Because I cannot keep up with everything
No?
anymore. No? No, do you?
No,
You have lists and numbers. That
Not really.
pages, lots of pages.
All right. There's actually another question about legions. It's Benzo asking, do we have any plans for further legion update in the future?
There aren't any plans for updates, but there are no plans not to update. We're monitoring his performance, or their performance, and if something comes up that we think needs to be adjusted, we definitely will.
Okay. And then the last question before we go to doctor stuff. Mr. Z is asking, why did you guys decide to bring back Hook Survivor, taking a free hit for the unhooker?
I'd be happy to take this one.
Cool.
So the gameplay on the hook is a delicate situation. The intention has always been so that the person on the hook is a person who can be hit. At first, when you see somebody hitting somebody on the hook, it feels pretty petty. But it feels pretty good as a killer, you know, to just smack away at somebody. It also gives...
Are you condemning that? That's...
I'm not condemning anything. I'm saying that a killer could do this, right? And I actually prefer that he does this so that I can go in and go for the unhook, because the amount of time it takes to smack somebody and blade wipe is longer than the time it takes for me to get in and unhook. So, you know, it depends on how you take it. So
At least you're not clicking your flashlight.
I don't usually have a flashlight, unfortunately, not these days. Rank 20, you know? So, so we
Nice.
put back the killer being able to hit the person on the hook so that the survivor who's trying to do the unhook can try to play with the killer, try to put the body of the the hooked player between himself and the killer. So when the killer doesn't attack, he's got to really focus, maybe even wait to get into position to be able to specifically hit the person who is unhooking, right? In moments that are really tense, when it comes really down to it, that hit on that hook can really make a really big difference for the save and being able to get out the map. And we definitely want to keep that. Now, I know that when we did this change, we also removed the ability for a survivor to phase through the hook survivor. That was never intended, or rather not in that format. I remember we talked about some point where you can crouch under the hook survivor and try to dodge, but urban evasion would be a bit too intense at that point, so maybe not the case. But we do not want to stay with that. We specifically made it so you cannot clip through the survivor on the hook, and at the same time the killer can hit the guy on the hook. This is supposed to be to help you have an easier time saving in some cases, because I've seen killers smack even through the hook and hit the guy on the other side, and that really sucks. You feel like you did have that meat shield between you.
So using the hooked survivor as a meat shield.
Bring back the meat shield.
So basically, meat shield tech.
Exactly.
All right. On this, I think we're going to go with the doctor questions.
Doctor time.
So some of you might have seen a couple of things about doctor already.
A couple of things, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Let's
know what
make
you're
sure
talking
that we understand that this is not, that it was not final or anything.
No.
We're preparing a detailed post for January, so early January when we all come back from vacation. So you're gonna have a lot of details. But today, I think we want to highlight what the cool stuff about the doctor change is gonna be. So you want to go ahead?
All right, so we were deciding which killer we were going to update for this mid-chapter update, and I just thought, who's the most annoying killer to play against? Doctor, obviously, because of the static field and his passive ability to make survivors scream, where he can get this information on you where you are without having to do anything but walk around in treatment mode. Just walking around and some random person screams,
That was the initial intent when we designed it, by the way.
It's
But
frustrating as hell.
it revealed itself over time.
It ended up feeling worse to play against than was originally intended. So we have decided to do, this is at the level of update. This is not a full rework. So we're not at Freddy level. So it's not
We're at
a rework.
nurse.
It's about nurse level. It's not Legion level
Update.
where I tweak a whole bunch of numbers, but
Yeah.
everything is pretty much the same. We're sort of in between there.
It's a little further than nurse, though.
It's a little further than nurse.
But you'll understand why.
You'll understand. Okay, so the first thing we did was get rid of static field. So
This is the passive, I'm applying madness to you per second as long as you're in my terror radius.
Yep. So
Okay.
you no longer are going to get madness just because you exist. That's the way one of our other designers
That's
likes
just
to put
life,
it.
though.
I suppose.
Against the doctor, it is.
And so I'm replacing static field with a new ability called static blast, which is quite similar but limited very specifically, so it's not as frustrating to play against.
Okay.
The way static blast works is you charge it up for 2 seconds, and while you're charging it, you move slower.
It's the other hand.
It's the other hand? Oh, it is the other hand. You're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
because you're holding your.
Yes, yeah, you're right.
I'm not making that.
It's because I'm looking at the monitor and I'm backwards in it. Anyway, so you charge up for 2 seconds, you're slow moving, and then blaff. You hit everybody in your terror radius with a blast of static energy. Okay,
Wait,
that sounds...
What?
Yeah.
Wait,
So what happens is you get 50 madness, which is enough to tear you up in the madness thing. I know this is sounding evil, you guys. There's probably all sorts of freaking out faces on the Twitch. Which reveals your position to the doctors. So it kind of feels like, oh no, it's the same thing, right? Well, it's on a 60-second cooldown. So, yes, once every 60 seconds, you get to find anybody who is in your terror radius and put them up a madness tier. But that is a long, long cooldown in Dead by Daylight terms. This is like MOBA level ultimate sort of cooldowns.
And that's it? That's all I get now?
We are
So I'm going to switch stances just for that?
No, you're not, because we are removing stances.
What?
Now that we have these two abilities, and one of them is not passive, you don't need treatment mode to activate this passive and to determine whether the passive is on or not. So we've removed treatment mode. So the doctor now walks around at full speed, 4.6 meters per second.
4.6.
4.6.
Oh my
yes.
God.
And shocks people.
And he zaps people. He still has his shock therapy attack. Pretty much works the same way. You charge it up. Nope, it's the other hand. You charge it up, and then he hits this cone in front of him.
Which is slightly bigger, right?
It's a little bigger, but the add-ons no longer enlarge it as much as they used to, and they no longer widen it. So
We still have the beam, though, right?
we still have the beam.
The very long.
The
Just in
donut
case you
is
guys are
the
wondering.
donut's gone. Sorry guys, the donut's gone.
The scrap
Well-
tape is scrapped.
You can have a donut every 60 seconds.
It's not really a
Yeah,
donut.
But it's
that's-
not a real
It's not
donut.
exactly the donut that
It's a
floats in
donut
front of you
shock.
with a hole in the middle of it. and
It's
it was-
the equivalent of the actual shock, but in a
Yeah.
AoE around you.
But you still have your add-ons that increase the terror radius, and you can still use distressing, so you can still zap people ridiculous distances away from you.
So, guys, how about we don't talk about nerf and buff and we talk about change? Because that's a change to the doctor.
Yep.
And then we'll see how it goes and how people are playing with it.
Yes.
And how they find ways that we never seen
Yeah.
to abuse.
Because this is not intended to nerf or buff the doctor. We're just supposed to change it and make it less frustrating to play against.
Yeah, so
Yep.
just to go over it, no more stances.
Yep.
We have static blast,
Yep.
which replaces the
Static field.
static field. Great.
Yep.
Um,
We've got a couple new add-ons.
we got a couple new add-ons.
Yeah, but there's... Do
Do you want to tease one of them? Just one of them.
Well,
No.
I'll do two.
All right.
I don't know if you remember Iridescent King, but it has all these lists of horrible afflictions it can give to you, right? Well, there's a new one.
Well, no, we removed
We
one.
removed the exhausted one
Yeah.
because that was really annoying to play against. And we've replaced it with counterclockwise skill checks.
Yes.
What?
So your skill check little red bar will now go the other way if you're afflicted by this.
The other way and sometimes somewhere else in the street.
Yeah, it might
That
be
was
somewhere
really
else.
distracting.
Yeah,
It
it's-
appeared in the bottom left-hand corner for me,
And it's
it went the
backward,
other
and you're
way,
like,
and I was
"What?"
just like, what just happened? Oh, shoot.
Yeah. And then we've got, I mean, how can you have the Iridescent King without the Iridescent Queen?
Yes.
So we now have the
absolutely.
Iridescent
Damn.
Queen. Anytime you zap somebody, that means either with shock therapy or with static blast, the survivor acquires a charge that stays on them until they get within 4 meters of another survivor.
And then what happens?
And then it zaps the other survivor as if it were a shock therapy attack.
So he's like a time bomb.
Yeah,
a madness bomb.
It's hilarious. You
A
zap
madness
somebody
bomb.
and they run off and you wait And you hear this in the distance, like, yep, got them.
You can literally see their silhouettes pop up in the distance.
Oh, it's really fun. Looking forward to releasing this.
Even more information when we come back from vacation early January. I think this is going to give you a lot to discuss about already. I can see the chat going nuts. So a lot of things to discuss about already. Let's go and recap a little bit what
From the top.
From the top. There you go. Our news. So yes, there is a DC penalty test right now on PC and Switch. It will end tomorrow at 11 a.m. Thank you for all your feedback. Continue giving it, please. We're gathering all this. We're gathering data. And we're going to go back with this and see what we do with all of it. Obviously trying to improve the system. Matchmaking, we're aware. Our team is looking at it right now. We are trying some number changes in the backend for easing the matchmaking over Christmas. So you might see a little bit of changes in the ranking or the ranks that you're facing. That might be happening. So we're hoping this is going to have the faster queue. Then no winter event. We have given a lot of winter gift. We have changed a little way the way we're doing events. We're putting a lot of things in the tomes, so in the archives, and that's where we want to go for the future. But for this one, for winter, we offered a ton of gifts, and you have a double blood point starting January 2nd. So for the end of the first archive, the first tome. We will be on vacation, so happy holidays to everyone. We'll be on vacation. The studio will be closed from December 25th to January 1st. So it's going to be a little slow. Our community managers are not going to answer customer support. There's people are going to be a lot more, seeing their family, being actual humans, having fun in life sometimes.
And since the Blood Point event is January 2nd, I don't have to ignore my family to get extra blood points.
Oh,
this is great.
And we're preparing an end of year post to discuss about, where we are at, compare with our anniversary roadmap, where we're at, what we're going to do in the future, how dedicated servers on console will work, and everything. So I think this is it. Guys, we'll see you next year.
Next year.
That is awesome.
2020.
Be kind to one another.
Yes, that's a good word of the stream. Be kind to each other.
Unless you're the killer, then hook them.
And do like Orvat, smash them on the hook.
Love it.
Bye, guys.